Hello, this is Brett Bumeter, and this is the ZetaMining Show. I'm here with my co-host Warren Whitlock, and today we're going to be
Yo!
covering yo Patreon, a used book library on the curbside, and we might get into a few other topics as well. How are you doing today, Warren?
Good, good, good. Yo! I did this the other day when I heard about the Yo app. And if you haven't heard about the Yo app, you probably don't care enough to go look at it. That is a good thing. It means you're living an active and full life, and you don't need to look at the Yo app. But being the kind of guy that pays attention to what is popular or what memes are working, I saw Yo go. Yo come out. I saw some of the heavy testers of such things try it. And I thought, well, why not just try answering yo to all of them? And so I put in there a post about it, yo. And that's fairly annoying. And so by the time I got to the app, I'd already discovered that saying yo to everything or giving a high five sign all the time or always making the same comment is pretty boring. So yo is an app that does one thing. It makes your friend's phone say yo.
Right.
And then your friend has to be registered.
And so far, Sylvester Stallone has not taken any stock options on the app. This is not, so far, unconfirmed sources have not said that he will be the new William Shatner representing Yo, as William Shatner was for Priceline.
No, I don't think they have quite that budget. They did. The reason it came up was there was $1.2 million invested in the company. I think they are on to something, and I guess that's kind of the theme of the show today, is that regardless of the utility or the fattiness of this thing, having conversations gets down to it's as simple as yo. If I walk into the room and say hey or yo or hello to you, then you know I care. If I walk into a business establishment, they don't look up what they're doing with a glance, a blink, something, smile. It may be a yo or hello. And maybe at just a moment, even if it's going to take 15 minutes to get to me, acknowledging that I'm a human being entering the room, I think that's dang important. I think we have very attuned sensors in our makeup that and yo is probably more than we need. Using that technology to let you know that your friend is online, that your kid is safe at home, that all is right in the world is good. I think those signals will continue to evolve. An app that you push a button and says yo, maybe not so.
Yeah, there's limited use there, but it's the concept that, like you said, they're on to something, and we can learn some valuable thing from something, even if it seems a little screwy just to have an app that says yo and spend $1 million on it. But as you were saying that, I was just envisioning myself walking into a meeting somewhere, conference room full of people, and hitting a button and sending a group yo to everyone in the meeting, and then having all their phones go off at once, shouting yo, 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 yo. Or maybe I could schedule my yos or have an auto yo.
Well, yeah, we went and played. I played with it for a while on Saturday night with some of the people using it, and and not there was one Joe Com posted that Brian Kramer had yo'd him 5 times in a row. What's the yo etiquette? Yodicate. And so we started making up some words, and I came up with the Yo Analytics suite that every business would need to install and see how many people were yoing in their operation. And the serious side of that is, yeah, that stuff's coming. I reviewed an app yesterday where their idea, I think the company will go no place, but the idea was a tower community, so only people in the same building, not necessarily even working together, knowing each other, or anything like that. So you could do things grouping people that way. I think tracking some of that stuff is good in some ways, but it's not. I don't think anyone wants to join a community of people that work in the same building.
No,
there are communities. There's cross communities. Alcoholics Anonymous comes to mind.
Yeah, Neighborhood Watch comes to mind too. You don't know what's
Right.
going to be connected to your neighbors, but
Exactly. And it can be somewhat ad hoc, and then a member of the group can let somebody else in or whatever like that. If I'm an AA member and I need to know whether or not there's another one in the building where, and they're open, then we both join an app, and if my sponsor's not available, I can find that person. Again, making this up off the top of my head, I'm not a friend of Bill, so I don't know all that stuff. But neighborhood watch I mentioned, same thing.
Yep.
I don't want a phone call if my neighbor sees that my dog is out. I really couldn't care less. I know the dog will come back or get lost, and that's my attitude towards the dog. Let's not get off on what I should or shouldn't do with the pets. I'm making up these examples. But if my neighbor, if I'm every day having somebody call me, come to my house and knock on the door, that's the one I thought of, though, is that there was some time when somebody visiting had left a dog or something like this, and seriously, the best thing in the world would be for that dog to disappear. As far as I was concerned, I'm the only person at home. I'm maybe doing something like this. The doorbell rings. I go downstairs. Never good news in my neighborhood if somebody visits, because we don't use this mailing address or invite people over or do anything like that. So I met a few neighbors, but that's incidentally. And so if somebody comes to the door and knocks on the door and tells me they want something, a waste of time. Wouldn't I like to have something on the dog's collar that lets me know he's not in the yard?
Say it again. I missed that.
Just the dog collar knows when the dog leaves the yard. I don't need an electronic fence. I don't need to get upset.
Some tool to help keep track of what's going on.
Yeah, most of the time, UPS comes to my house nearly every day, or FedEx, and rings the doorbell. It's rarely do I drop what I'm doing and run downstairs and check to see what junk came in the mail. I get, I'm aware of it. I need to know. It's good that there's a noise and I know, but I'd like that to be identified. I'd like it to say yo on my phone.
Right. Sorry, we're getting a little choppy, so I'm only catching a few words of what you're saying.
Oh, well, that's wonderful.
Didn't mean to drift off on you there, but I didn't catch most of that.
Yeah, if you're not getting it, then is it getting out? Should we worry about the line?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm showing lots of bandwidth.
Yo when the line works.
Right. Hard to say. Sunspots? We're supposed to have a solar storm today. I need a solar storm app or a bandwidth app.
I'm doing the thing to make sure it's not my processor changing the bandwidth used. Any better now?
I'm hearing you talk just fine now, so I don't know. It might have been a splotchy
It could be. Haven't rebooted the machine in a few days. It's always possible that something else is using bandwidth in the background. So, hey, I'm back.
Right, so
we
also had Patreon. I'm not sure if I'm totally pronouncing that correctly, but
it's Patreon and look at a French type pronunciation of that, but I don't know.
Patreon?
Or at least Patreon,
Patreon, or I don't know. I'm not quite sure how it's pronounced, but it's basically it's sort of like a Kickstarter or Indiegogo, where people can provide patronage for artists. So it's kind of artist-centric, and you can fund a writer, a YouTube show, whatever it might be, with some sort of a donation or recurring donation or something of that nature. And they just picked up funding themselves. I think it was $12 million off the top of my head. Well, it wasn't $12 million off the top of my head, but if memory serves, it was $12 million that someone else gave out of their bank account to be. But I think it's an interesting service and concept. Kind of goes a little bit beyond the Kickstarter, where you have to build up to a certain amount and then they get it. This is something that just gradually goes and gives someone a little bit of money, or it can be project-based or show-based, things of that nature.
I like this one. I like the idea that it's there, and of course it ties right into what we're talking about. I don't want to see 27 things, and I admit it. If when I get into Indiegogo or Kickstarter, I start shopping around. What else can I do? I want more. I want more data signals coming in, and I gave a dollar to a project to build a foldable helmet.
Mm-hmm.
So you want a helmet that's tough enough that it's going to protect you if you fall off your bike, or I don't know if it was supposed to protect bullets or military. It came from some military technology. But the idea that then when you get done with the helmet, you can flip a switch, collapse it, and put it in a very small space. I was just so cool. I don't want one.
It's a very useful tool for people that need bike helmets, I think, or it wasn't a motorcycle helmet, right? If I remember right, it was a bicycle helmet.
I think so. It looks like a bicycle helmet in my recollection. I get an update about that at least once a week. And it's nearing the end of the campaign or the shipping of the goods or whatever. But I gave $1 to mark that it was something I cared about. Yeah. Whether it be $1 or a follow button, it's about the same thing. And I tweeted about it and shared it with some people because I liked the thing. And as we get into filtering what comes in and what we want, it's nice to have those subtle cues if you're looking for them. It would be great if at some point the ZetaMining logo you can see on your screen now, and this won't work, but if you could click on it and then find out about sponsorship opportunities or how to buy our products or how to contact us or something like that, and it became normal that when watching something that the what do they call that, the watermark was something you could click and get some more information. Hey, really like those headphones you're wearing, let me click on them and get some more information. And so this is pull rather than push marketing. So we don't have to say, leave a comment and hit the subscribe button. We can just say we can talk about it, which is okay. I mean, because but if we haven't mentioned it before, we're here to get you to subscribe. That's our main goal of the show right now, to provide a lot of information and get you to subscribe, or in order to get you to subscribe. But it would be nice if you just knew that when somebody you were interested in, you could click. I click on your nose and it tells me, where your about me and LinkedIn profile are, and sorry girls, he's taken. It's whatever it is that you want to provide, and I think that flips the conversation from being media producing something and pushing it out and getting it. So back to Patreon.
There you go.
I'm going to pronounce it differently every time. I like that it's you can be a patron, and you make a decision to be a patron, and it appeals to that. Let me look through, and I can leave and stop being a patron at any time. If I like a page on Facebook, I don't get a phone call, why did you stop giving, if I unlike them later, or if I filter them or do whatever. And I think that's the way it should be. I certainly don't want to offend, a cousin who is posting, great barbecue recipes every day, and I don't go outside. I just want to filter and say, love my cousin, no barbecue. And I think we're going to get that kind of fine things in there, and signals like yo, and opportunities like subtly giving some money, and these things tie together. And let's tie together the third one.
So the third one, this is the concept of a used book library that kind of got some viral media attention when a young child, I can't remember if it was a boy or a girl, they built their mother, for Mother's Day, a small little library. You can picture a very large mailbox, maybe shaped like a house, and it was take a book, borrow a book kind of concept at the curb of their house. And of course they didn't get zoning approval for the construction of this library. this, large mailbox-sized thing. So it got a lot of attention, but it brought to the fore the concept of how popular it is and how social it can be, and conversation started and everything else, for people to share their used books and put them to some use. And you and I were talking about the concept of used books the other night when we were brainstorming up concepts for the next show, and this happened to be pinging through the news at that time. It was.
Well, it's that's the news. I mean, it's silly to restrict people, and it's actually it goes back to what I was reading last week about the problem with trying to regulate society is that regulation and laws are good for freedom. They form boundaries and the playing field on which we can live our lives, right? If you have a boxing ring and suddenly somebody decides that they're going to start pulling stunts by hitting their opponent before he gets in the ring, well, he's broken that rule and spoiled the whole reason to have the event. Because if you don't have some kind of rules, it doesn't work. But if you have somebody, going through the blow by blow and deciding whether or not there should be a fight while they're in the middle of the boxing match, I don't know, maybe I'm torturing that metaphor a little bit too much, but if somebody starts trying to regulate everything you do, it's a problem, which is why we wind up with ladders with 27 stickers on them and candles that say fire can burn.
I have mixed feelings on this because I used to live in South Florida, where it's one of the areas of the country where things like this are very overregulated, especially in certain subdivisions. But at the same time, I now live in a subdivision that's very underregulated, and as a neighborhood, we had an issue a while back when a neighbor was keeping his German Shepherds in a new construction thing that he built right up at the edge of the street. Dogs were getting out. They were actually attacking people and other dogs and things like that. And the bottom line is there's a setback usually established by most areas where it's actually city, county property at the edge of the road. You maintain it as part of your yard, the sidewalk, or something like that sometimes too. And in this case, they put this thing that's shaped like a house, although much smaller, bigger than a mailbox, right at the edge of the curb, a place where it would be useful for people to walk up, open the door, grab a book, share, and deposit a book at the same time. It has to be present to be useful, but at the same time, I could see the zoning problem. In Colorado, it might be, I don't know, borrow a joint, leave a joint, or or something.
Well, and it gets to, of course, we've talked before, and can bring that back up if you want, about the books and where that's going. But I think the idea of community sharing is going there. Airbnb has the same problem.
Yes.
There are commercial interests
Uber
that don't want.
And it's a similar, the technology and people trying to share things. Butting up laws that were established for completely different reasons.
Sure, and there are huge numbers of things being worked on and share. If I own a drill, and one of the first things you learn in marketing that the purpose of owning a drill could be ego gratification, could be feeling good that you were able to buy a nice power tool. But for most people, the utility is that it puts holes in things, and I have a limited need to put holes in things. And so I go to the store, I buy a drill, especially since, for me it happened when they got, it might have been my age too, but when I got to the point that buying a drill meant getting a different charging battery and having to figure out a place to plug it in, I no longer wanted that. And so I love that example of, if I own a nice drill, I'm proud to own the drill. It's provided its utility in that it puts a hole someplace when I need it. When it's sitting in my garage, I feel good that I own a drill that I need at any time. But 99.9% of the time, it's sitting idle. And in the neighborhood, how many people are there that don't have a drill? I'm happy to lend the drill out. I worry about whether I get it back or whatever like that. Commerce-wise, I could pay off the whole drill if there was a way that every time somebody wanted to borrow it, they paid me $2. It wouldn't take very long, and the cost of the drill was there. The insurance issue of losing it or having to replace it or it breaks or whatever would be taken care of. But I'm not in the business of renting out drills or caring about collecting $2 when a neighbor comes over. But there are systems in place trying to do those kind of things. Airbnb being a huge one, because it's now taking away from people staying in hotels. And I think the only sane answer to me, philosophically, is to try to look at how to make these things work rather than what's wrong with them and they won't work. And we'll get back to the girl in the house. There has to be some way for that to work.
You would, well, I like the concept. I think it went viral in news because, you know, a child had run into essentially the zoning law and didn't realize it.
Sure.
I kind of felt, you know, as a parent, I always look for opportunities to try and help my kids learn about these type things so that they can work with the system, or learn to figure out how to, you know, if a law needs to be changed, then teach them to go change the law, don't break it, and then complain about it later.
Right. So if your neighbor...
So I kind of feel like, in this case, the parents were their own ignorance, and I don't think they knew about the law either or realized its impact here.
Right.
You know, everybody had good intentions, but they still weren't paying attention to the law.
But the right answer to that is not to say we don't do things this way. It's to find the right answer. I just said that the right answer was finding the right answer.
The right answer is always finding the right answer.
Yes, it is. That's true. I have. Thank you,
Unless
Captain Obvious. I have stated it. Now, when you get into something like, is it harming? If somebody said that mail house is obstructing my view, well, then the ordinance can decide. If the dogs get out of the shelter and bite somebody, then we have rules to decide those sort of things. The liability is certainly on the dog owner if the dog gets out, you know, it's. Do we need somebody coming by and saying, hey, you can't build that? Yeah, some of that has to happen. The bureaucracy of that.
In Florida, it would be a hurricane hazard, just as another example. You know, it's something that could have been picked up by the wind and blown away. They're in Kansas, historically, you know, significant.
Well, the big issue on building the thing for the dogs is it going to harm the neighborhood, lower property values, give that all of those kind of things that happen. And there are laws in place to deal with that. And if somebody comes up with an innovation, hey, I think it would be better to keep my dogs in the front of the house instead of behind, well, then let's discuss it and see if we can come up with something. When we take the attitude that he's wrong because he wants his dogs in front of the house, which, by the way, I would wholeheartedly agree with those who say dogs belong in the backyard, not front yard. I'm only coming off as the pet hater today.
This is really the dog episode. We should
have dog episode. That's it. It's Warren's subtle way of telling the world.
Doggone dog should have been the title.
Curb your dog. No, I think that we come up with a viable solution, and there's a lot of positive in this. There's a woman in the UK who started a movement to plant vegetables in places that were just lying fallow. So if you have a divider in a road and it's dirt or rock mixed with dirt, I guess if you put in rock it can look nice, but if it's an unused space and just growing weeds, and somebody wants to come in and garden there, why, we got to take the attitude that's a good thing. Now, she's been through various city ordinances. It's an interesting thing when I got to the TED Talk on it, the amount of space that's in the average city that could be used for planting locally grown vegetables is huge. It's a lot of space. There's a lot of empty lots and things like that, and you get into all sorts of zoning and regulation problems with it. But it's just an obvious thing. People want to have vegetable gardens. A lot of people live where they can't conceivably put it in their own yard. What can we let them do? And the community gets along. It fosters better community. Eating local vegetables is said to be good, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now, when that could easily flip over to, I am claiming that divider, I'm going to grow vegetables there, and then I take my dog and my small child out to the garden to work, and cars are whizzing by at 50 miles an hour. We've got whole different issues that come up. You know, and so
Rabbits
I don't think
run over more regularly because they're
right.
carrots.
And it's natural to worry about rights. I mean, look at talk about crazy Florida. You know, the idea of
they're partly crazy because they have a very large population and they've had to come up with rules to keep everybody cohesive because they're squished into a 5-mile strip along the coast.
What I'm saying is you get something like the right to carry thing, or the right to shoot somebody, no questions asked kind of thing, and you go like, maybe that's not the most sensible answer to that. To dismiss that the forces that made them pass that law aren't there is a problem, and it's something we see far too often on, say, you know, voter proof. You have to show ID when you vote. Those kind of things. Which political party? Not just registration, but the
whole
ID.
process. There's several steps to it.
Right, and you go like, okay, there's some good motivation in there, but quite often the motivation is thought to be political in entirety, and I see it as that if you say the cases of voter fraud for not checking IDs is 1 in a million, and somebody invariably will say, well, 1 is enough that we have to do something about it. Well, that's just not practical. And this gets back to the whole idea of what kind of common sense laws can you pass and what you can't, and how do you do that. One of the things is education, letting people know that 1 in a million doesn't mean that it's something we have to do. If even 1 child dies because of this, well, I hate to see a child die. I don't want to come out as pro killing children, but
it's not statistically significant if you're going.
I think I've told you, but my favorite recent one is the number of kids that are killed by drinking scented oil. I do not want kids to die from drinking scented oil, but I don't think legislation will work.
Putting a label on it may or may not be, or
may or may not.
Additional thing in addition to putting a label on it may or may not help.
Right. One of the things is you have to pick your battles and go ahead and say, okay, well, 100,000 kids were killed worldwide by car accidents and 3 by sharks. Maybe posting a lot more signs about warnings to go swimming when there's shark present isn't what we really is the best thing to focus. I'm not saying you can't. If you know there's sharks in the area, you post a sign, you tell people about it. Sounds like a smart thing. But trying to regulate and come up with a national or international policy on these things, this isn't going to work. It's just too rare of an incident.
And it's easy to cook the statistics. I'm reading a book right now, and one of the concepts in the book, it's a book called Cobweb. Neil Stephenson's one of the authors, but they have something called the body undercount. And essentially every time this organization, it's kind of a scientific think tank at a university, every time they develop something new, they tabulate how many people's lives they have saved by doing this thing, because it's a good thing they can put in a press release. It's a good thing that they can take to Capitol Hill and say, in total, we've done 20 projects, and each project average saving, each project saved on average 10 million lives. So that's 200 million people we've saved, and that number keeps continuing to grow. But in reality, they didn't actually save 200 million people's lives. It's just something that they can statistically kind of curve their way into, just to make their changes. They're trying to get grant money in this particular book, but
right, and it's an illusion. It's an illusion. One of the reasons why we cure more cancer today than we did 40 years ago is earlier detection. And so if we detect somebody earlier, the cure is good. I mean, it's all for doing this. It's not a question of whether or not to do it. But
people are living longer and developing cancer more than we used to.
Right. But if I have
cancer as much.
If I have a cancer that's going to kill me 20 years from now, and we detect it 18 years from now, then I live for 2 years with cancer, and that's sad. And if I detect that cancer today and I live for 20 years, well, then that's a great success because I live for 20 years. Either way, I die in 20 years. And, I don't want to do that. And so that's it. We don't want to, and so we look at these and go like, well, how can we up the number of years somebody survives on cancer? Well, one easy way is to detect it earlier. You don't have to cure anything. You just detect it earlier. And that leads to things like, detecting things and taking action before they're necessary. Angelina Jolie comes to mind. Prostate cancer comes to mind. Are the things they're doing right or wrong? It's not that. It's the paradox of sorting it out. And so as we get back to the web and what we do and how to market with this, it's to assume that people are going to have some screwed up ideas, and sometimes, even violently stay with these ideas, regardless of what facts come out. I don't care about the facts. I care about my child.
Sometimes you gotta break some eggs to make an omelet, right?
Right. Well, yes and no. I mean, you're not my child's eggs. If some kids are going to die, it better not be mine. If there's going to be, we're going to take care of nuclear waste. That's fine, but please not in Nevada.
Right.
And and it's only natural that we have feelings like that, and we are all irrational. So, like, if you want to sell something, then go ahead with that. This morning I was reading just another common blog post, happened to be by a friend, about getting more comments on your blog, with some good advice. And I found myself stating that I really don't think that commenting on my blog is near as important as me commenting on yours. And it's true. I comment on that blog 3 or 4 times a week, literally every time I read something there. Almost every time I read there. I do more writing on other people's blogs than I do on my own blog. And boy, is that out of balance. Well, doesn't matter. And one thing that really stood out was he said, 90% of your readers are lurkers. Get over it. Well, if they're lurking in the comments, it's great that my comment is there. If I'm guest posting instead of posting on my blog, that's fine. It's wherever the readers are, wherever I'm reaching people. And that's counterintuitive, because what we want is, this is mine. Tell me I'm wonderful. I want to win the beauty contest.
Mm-hmm.
And
Technorati shut down their blog ranking this last week. A different article I just happened to see. Technorati used to be the place where if you were a blogger, they tracked, the top 100 bloggers and things like that, and they no longer do that. They quietly shut that service down. They provide advertising now.
Well, and
this is
there you go. Right. If you really want to get something done, putting all your focus on influencing the top bloggers is not near as good as getting 50 in the top 1,000. For one, some of those will go up, statistically, makes sense, and you don't know who they read. And even the top bloggers, the great people that I know personally, they read other blogs. And so, I want to get to know them on a blog, and there's no doubt I'd rather have my comment, post, whatever, be seen by 1 million people than 10,000. But it's still, if it affects one. My customers spend enough money with me that if I do that, 1,000 times and get 1 new customer, it would be well worth it. I'm not going to be able to measure which one is best for doing that. I need to connect with one person. And so I can be a little bit more openly philosophical about that sort of thing. If you're trying to sell widgets for 50 cents, numbers matter. You've got to get to some more numbers. So
I heard. Hey, we talked
about to wrap it up.
Bringing this up. One quick little last thing. I was mentioning that I'm dememifying my Facebook feed.
Okay.
A couple days ago, a friend of both of ours, Chris Voss, he mentioned that he was essentially going methodically through all of his friends on Facebook, and anytime he saw them post a meme, typically from like a radio station with some goofy, funny, stupid, silly, serious, whatever it was, meme, he was going in and clicking the little down arrow button and not unfollowing the person that had shared it. He still wanted to be friends with them, but he was unfollowing or blocking the page that had created the meme. And usually these are like, 93.7, whatever it is, radio station that you've never heard of somewhere in the country. Might be a radio station, might not be a radio station, but they've got a Facebook page, and they're generating these memes and light baits and stuff like that. And he was unfollowing all of those and a bunch of other memes that he sees shared and reshared and ad nauseum, so that he could actually, and this is the purpose of it, he wanted to see what people were actually writing, sharing, saying, doing on Facebook, not the memes they were sending. And I've been doing a little bit of that myself today as well, kind of getting rid of some of those because I see the same memes over and over again, and they get tiresome, and it clutters up your feed such that you can't see what's actually happening from time to time, especially with the advent of other things on Facebook.
I've got really good advice on that. I think people should unsubscribe from most everything, and not follow people they're not interested in, and shut these things down and put on the filters they can, for one reason. I hope you'll go down and subscribe to ours and spend all your time commenting and sharing the best show out there, ZetaMining.
Very true. Which shouldn't be too hard since we're not on Facebook yet, so don't have to worry about getting blocked there. But
but I am going to make up something really clever with the photo so that people will share it. By the way, I've survived the Chris
little meme of my dememification.
I have survived the Chris Voss filtering, because just yesterday I posted something on Instagram that only had hashtags, and it went over to Facebook, and he commented that it was a picture of watermelons, and I thought it was a good picture, and
so
that's why I posted it.
He hasn't blocked Instagram yet. He's
not blocked Instagram, and he's not blocked me for sharing a picture of watermelons. Yep. Although that was my picture of watermelons, I think, why bother to make up a quote card when you can do something interesting yourself? Again, my whole looking at what all this was yesterday started with me finding a luscious quote. It had the most interesting picture of a woman standing on her head, and all you could see was legs. Why, I don't know. And then something to the side of it, Abraham Lincoln. And I looked at it and I go, like, if Abraham Lincoln said that, and what I know about Abraham Lincoln, the great president, is true, and if he said that, boy, that's thought-provoking. And I can find no evidence that Abraham Lincoln ever said it. And, I really am of the opinion that Abraham Lincoln stole most of his good quotes from Albert Einstein.
That would completely make sense, given that they both share the same wormhole.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln used to practice law in my hometown, and there's a number of funny, or what would seem funny today, historical notes. He used to sleep with a judge in my hometown, actually.
Okay.
I'm from Metamora, Illinois, and essentially he was on a traveling court circuit, and they would come through, and the courthouse was there, and they would set up shop and practice law there, solving or trying whatever cases came through. There was one inn or hotel in town, and the inn had 2 floors. It was relatively large for the 1840s, I think this was, but it had no stairs to get to the second floor. There was no staircase inside to wind your way up into the second floor. You had to go outside, and there was a ladder that then went in through essentially a window. And so all the lawyers and the judge and other people that travel with the court would stay at the same inn, and they would drink and carouse and stuff like that in the early evening. And then whoever people would have to draw straws, because the judge that they were traveling with was extremely large. And occasionally the judge would would lose the room for the night or something and have to sleep upstairs. And so it was a small place, and different times it was cold in the winters and not heated well, so people would essentially share the same bed. And so Abraham Lincoln often had to sleep with the judge, and so did the other lawyers as well. But Abraham Lincoln was quoted as making several jokes about having to help push the judge up the stairs to get in through the window and get into bed together and all that good stuff in Metamora, Illinois.
Wow. Yeah, and and thank you for that, because that's real. That makes sense. It has all the baggage that story could have. You forget all that and just say, like, this guy really was there, and it's good things happen. Some few of the little things he did. And when, you know, what I ended up finding out was a popular story about Lincoln was made up by somebody in the 1880s. And, you know, and I found nothing disparaging at all. Nothing to say that, you know, Lincoln didn't make up stories in the 1880s. He was long gone.
Right.
You know, nothing bad about that. And so I think that filtering out what's bad, looking for the good makes some difference. And so whether or not it's Facebook or, you know, getting the right signals and getting only from your 5 closest friends or not is something we all get to tailor and get to do. And you know, if you do have any trouble deciding which one to do, I'll tell you. But no, if you don't, it's okay. Do what you want. Don't follow me. Do what makes sense. Do click the follow button, but you don't have to follow what I say.
And I would
don't
agree.
forget to share.
That's a good point. If you're watching this today on YouTube or catching it through Google Hangouts or Google Plus, we would definitely encourage you and thank you for subscribing or sharing this video or some of the other videos from ZetaMining. If you got any comments, questions, or things you'd like us to talk about in future episodes, let us know that too with a comment or hit us up on Twitter. You can catch me on Twitter at Brett Bum, or Warren you can find at Warren Whitlock on Twitter. And we thank you again. This has been the 27th episode of ZetaMining. Thanks, Warren.
Bye.
Bye.